Oh, good.
We're going chasing.
Hello there, and welcome to...
We're going chasing.
Hello, now, and welcome to...
We're going chasing.
Now, we have a lot on the agenda, lads, so we'll cut the chase and get straight down to the business.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of We're Going Chasing. We're looking at the first day of the Cheltenham Festival, the Tuesday, and I'm delighted to have Ash Symonds from Only Fools Love Horses and Paul Callaghan from the Irish Field here with us today. Thanks very much for joining us, lads.
No problem at all. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, no bother. Delighted to be asked.
No bother. What are your plans for the festival? Will you be over there, or will you be watching from the comfort of your own home or a pub, or what's the story?
Oh, do you want to go first? Yeah, I'll be in Cheltenham, so I'll be here, whatever. You know, you can't get me out of Cheltenham. You coming over, Paul?
Unfortunately or fortunately not. I'd say if I was over, I'd want the next week off. I'd want another holiday after Cheltenham. But yeah, hopefully I'll be working that week. Definitely be watching the race, and I won't miss the race. But yeah, with a young family, with a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, an almost 1-year-old, I'd say it'll be a couple of years before I see Cheltenham.
Yeah. I was there in the Irish Field obviously before. Yeah, tried to get over. It's hard too with work and whatnot. It's a busy week at work, and
that's it.
Brendan needs the manpower there.
He does, and like Thursday and Fridays, James, it'd be the busier days for us, so you just wouldn't want to drop the ball either of those days.
No. You certainly
You worked a Friday in Cheltenham a couple of years
ago,
didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I went over. I went over for the November meeting before, and I worked remotely on the Friday there. I don't know how happy Brendan was with my productivity that day, but I thought it was very good. And then the following year, then for the festival, again, so it was advertising in the Irish Field. So the paper obviously comes out on the Saturday. The viewers in England might not be aware of it, but the paper comes out on the Saturday, so the Friday is always very busy. And he wanted me to come home, I think it was Thursday evening. But if I went home Thursday evening, I'd miss Thursday night and I'd miss Friday night. So I got around the money and I worked Friday remotely over there in some office in Cheltenham. And then sure, I got to go Thursday night and Friday night as well. So it all worked out okay in the end. But look, we'll move on into it, and we'll get our teeth stuck into it. The first race, obviously, the Supreme Novices Hurdle there on the Tuesday. Ash, I'll leave you start here. Like Jericho de Rapinay is probably the main UK hope. Would you think that he'd be good enough to beat the best of the Irish?
He's probably good enough. He probably is, but I wouldn't be backing him. I've been slightly underwhelmed. It's funny enough, I was actually going through my betting accounts earlier, and I was just having a look to see, what have I actually had anti-post wise. And I remember Icy came on one of our spaces, the first one we ever did on the Sunday, and he said, lads, there's this thing in Hendo's yard called Jericho de Rapinay. Don't know what race is going to go for, but if you can get 6-1 on Sky Bet to win any race at the festival, have a bet, and it was 25 to the Supreme at the time. So I actually have a slip of 6-1 for Jericho de Rapinay, and he's turning up here at 7-1, which is value personified there. But look, I haven't been blown away with him over in the UK. I thought what he's done at Newbury obviously is very impressive. Looked like to be on the bridle, but look, there's just something that's not right with it. And there's just the talk since he's been on the track from AP and Nicky. I don't think it's been that strong as such kind of thing. I remember standing next to AP at Newbury, and he was sort of shocked this horse was 5-2 at the time. So look, he's not one for me. I think if Ballyburn just turns up here, he probably just does win. There's the exchange money that as we talk now on the Monday, we don't know where he's heading. It seems to be up in the air. Pretty mental day as we record on the Monday with the Con Hill news and everything. But I think if he turns up here, he probably does win. He's the most impressive horse that I've seen in the novice hurdle ranks this season. But look, if it was one at the each way price, I do think this Teller the Name for Ben Pauling's a nice horse. If you can ignore that ancient run on Boxing Day, which things didn't go right for him, he didn't really I don't know what it was. He didn't click. He didn't get into a rhythm, and he was gone too soon. They think a lot of this horse, and they think he's probably a touch better than Personal Ambition, who won at the weekend. I think he's quite nice. I think he's got plenty of speed, but I also think he's a 3-mile point-to-point winner, so he will stay and he will see out a Cheltenham trip in the Supreme. So that'll be my each way angle into the race, because Firefox was that, but he's too short now at 6s to reverse the form with Ballyburn. So I think Ballyburn wins is my answer, but Telling the Name, I think, is the each way angle at 16s into this.
Yeah, yeah. At least with Teller the name, he has shown his well-being since that day, Boxing Day, as you call it over there in the UK. But Paul, I suppose, like if Ballyburn doesn't turn up, like it's probably hard enough to split Mystical Power and Tully Hill, or would you have a favourite over those two, or would you be looking elsewhere?
I'd be looking elsewhere. I think if Ballyburn turns up, he wins. I think he's better over 2.5 or so. He was very good at the Dublin Racing Festival over 2 miles. I thought he might have been a tad vulnerable of against an opponent maybe that was a bit sharper at his hurdle. And I thought against Firefox at Fairyhouse, when he met one wrong, I thought he was just a bit slow. And he definitely didn't meet one wrong at Leopardstown. He was absolutely electric. He jumps superb, touch wood. So I think Ballyburn, if he turns up, he wins. Firefox, I was a big fan of his. I know the yard think a lot of him, but I was a big fan of his when I saw him at Fairyhouse that day. If you watch the replay of that run, you'll see what I mean. And the difference of Firefox, he was a lot slicker and a lot sharper over his hurdles than Ballyburn. But I was really disappointed with him. I thought he was an absolute certainty or as close to a certainty as he could get in the Lawlers and Ace. So that would have been disappointing. And I wouldn't be backing him. Unlike Ash, I do like Jericho de Repine. If Ballyburn doesn't turn up from a financial perspective, I'd be backing Jericho de Repine. I'm jumping off the Firefox boat bandwagon. I thought Jericho de Repine, I think the faster they go, the better. I didn't think he jumped overly well for Mark Walsh last time out at Doncaster. I thought at Newbury the time before, with both runs the time before with James and Nico, I just thought they went a quicker gallop early on. I thought he jumped better. And I don't think he's the type of horse that he's gonna blow you away. I don't think he's the type of horse that's gonna go away and win by 10 lengths or that. I think he's just doing enough, just doing what he has to do. At Doncaster as well, he was out wide, a small field and what have you. He got caught out wide, there went no gallop. And then he was just half messing, then coming into last, lugging into his hanging left and what have you. And like I said, his jumping could have been a lot slicker. I think the faster pace here will suit. And yeah, I think Jericho de Repine, best price 7-1. I'd be happy enough to take a punt on that if Ballyburn doesn't turn up here.
Okay, interesting. And just on the JP horses there in it, Mystical Power, just an interesting bit about him. Basically, I was speaking to somebody there who's in Willie's yard, and I was saying like he doesn't really have he doesn't look like the form, starting out at Galway over hurdles last year and then one run at Punchestown. He's not your typical profile for a supreme horse. And what I was told was that like his work at home was always very average. Any sort of work rider at all would be riding Mystical Power, and it wasn't a big deal. They were shocked really at his form on track. And since then, the last few months, like for a horse that never showed anything at home and was showing it on track, now his form at home is improving. So they're hopeful that that could be he could take a bigger step forward now on track the next day. But look, I just thought it was interesting that for a horse that showed nothing at home, now he started to show something at home. But Cillian, what about yourself in that race? Is it as straightforward as if Ballyburn turns up, he wins?
Yeah, I'd agree with Paul. I think if Ballyburn runs, he'll probably win. I do sort of like Jericho de Repine as well. I think his jumping did get better as the race went on the last day, and I think strong pace will suit, and he'd be interesting enough. I don't know who's going to ride him. Would Mark Walsh get the ride again if Mystical Power is in the Ballymore or the Birmingham? It's hard to know. It's a lot of guesswork at this stage. But he'd interest me, especially if Ballyburn doesn't run. Couldn't really have Tully Hill, to be honest, or Firefox. I think that the Lawlers really put me off him for all that he was very good against Ballyburn the first day. I think Slade Steele, it'd be one if Ballyburn didn't show up, Slade Steele will run here. And sure, he won't be stopping. I just wonder would he have enough toe. I reckon if it was a case, he won't run against Ballyburn, but he'd be closer to Ballyburn at Cheltenham over 2 miles than he would have been at Leopardstown. I'd be certain. And then yeah, I'd say Ballyburn wins, and if he's not there, I'd be back in Jericho de Repine.
Okay. Very good. 2 votes so for Jericho de Repine there. Obviously depending on what Ballyburn does. Looking at the Arkle then, we've obviously had news there in the last couple of hours is all that Marine Nationale is out. You know, Barry Connell was on the front page of the Racing Post a couple of days ago, you know, saying that he thought he was a sure thing and whatnot. But obviously something has gone awry since then, you know, and he's going to be out. Paul, we'll start with you there. It's a very open race. Elite Tom's obviously won at the Dublin Racing Festival, you know, and is the right favourite. But, you know, there's plenty of options there really to choose from, and it is wide open.
Yeah, I'd probably take a chance on JPR1, who was running a fine race and had the race in the bag at the open meeting when coming down in the closing stages. Was unlucky that day, then was third in the Scilly Isles, was it? In the Grade 1 at Sandown on his next start. His jumping needs to sharpen up with his jumping. You know, that'll be the only concern here. I know that the connections will have done plenty of schooling and whatnot with him, but his jumping just, like that the November meeting, just can let him down. Like Sandown, I think he tried to take, I think it was the second last with him as well. You know, he just has a tendency to land a bit steep. Got the job done at Lingfield last time out, so I would take a chance on him. I think he's a bit of value at around about the 7-1 mark. The English Tom, like a fine winner at Leopardstown the last day. The only thing I'd say, I was stood at the last, and Marine Nationale was beaten a long way out.
Yeah,
I was expecting to see him, you know, blow them away. He was beaten a long way out. I was stood at the last. His head was quite high. He nearly came down at the last. He made a bad mistake at the last. Head was like he was nearly looking the jockey in the eye. His head was so high, but his stride shortened somewhat. Terrible. And I was surprised. He was only 10 lengths behind the winner when they passed the line. I was surprised when I was stood at the last fence, so I didn't get a good look at the closing stages. But when I watched the replay back that evening, I was actually surprised how close he was to the winner. So that would be a slight concern of that form if you're getting involved in the first two in the betting. So,
okay.
But by all things considered, I would take a chance on JPR1.
Okay. And Ash, vote for an English horse there. What's your take on the race?
Yeah, I'll give a vote to an English horse as well here, but it might not be the one that's on most people's agendas. And, you know, it's a bit of a double whammy. Marine Nationale's come out, so the price is short. And then I've just heard someone mentioning that Ruby Walsh also put this horse up as well. But I like Master Chewy at a price. Like I just think it's, you know, he's rated 150 and he's got that Grand Annual entry. But I spoke to Willie Twiston Davis about this and said, look, are you interested in the Grand Annual at all? And they sort of said, no, really. Like this has been the plan for a while, kind of thing. And I remember reading a Nigel Twiston Davis piece, I think it was with William Hill, and he said that, you know, like he's going to the Lightning, and he said all things, you know, going well, we'll go on to the Arkle from here. And he didn't sort of say that about Matata in the same race. So I think, look, I'd say he's better than Matata out of the two Twiston Davis horses. And on pure form, he's beaten Nickelback by 4 3/4 lengths at Kempton 2 starts ago. He's then won a Grade 1 since. He was finished second to Elixir de Nuts. He was sent off 4-6 in a handicap at Newbury in early December. That's absolutely mental. They must have had so much faith behind him. But Elixir de Nuts just jumped brilliantly. And he was a fair and square winner on the day, but he's since gone and won a Clarence House. Now, I know John Bomb was a bit disappointing in that, and he made the big mistake, and Elixir didn't sort of, you know, capitalized on that. But yeah, I think he's got form that's stacking up here, and I think 20-1 is still a big enough price. I'd probably bet this horse sort of 12-1 or above. Really, I think he's got a great chance, and as an each way play into the race, I think he's great. And maybe one that's going a little bit under the radar as well. Now, I'll give one for the Willie Mullins horse here, but I think Hunter's Yarn. I don't know what the plan is with this horse. I think in the back of my head I've got something saying that they might be keeping to an Irish campaign with him. I can't quite remember now, but if they are coming over for the Arkle, and if you want to sort of back him as a non-runner money back, there's plenty of firms that are doing 6-1 about him non-runner money back. I give him a chance, you know, on pure form. He's beaten Paf Larue by 10 lengths at Fairy House in his last start, who's since come out and run well in a handicap. He's absolutely pummeled firm footings in that race as well. He's going to beat Safur by a distance at Fairy House before falling. And even his novice hurdle form, he beat Imagine by 6 lengths. He's won the Craddockstown since. And in that race as well, I know the way you're thinking was back in third, and American Mike was back in fourth. So yeah, I think he's a proper 2-miler. He quickens away from his obstacles, you know, whether it's hurdles or fences, he quickens away from the landing side really well. And 6-1, he's a bit of an each way to nothing, non-runner money back kind of thing. I'm ignoring Gaelic War. I hope he goes to Turners. Fingers crossed anyway. But yeah, that'll be my play into the Arkle anyway.
Okay, interesting. How about yourself, Cillian?
I'm going to do something that's very rare here. I'm going to potentially tip up a third English horse. You didn't inspire me there, Ash. I like Matata. I think he's a proper, like, real 2 mile headbanger. Like, he bounced out the last day in Lingfield, and like, if he jumped straight, he probably would have won. And if he could sharpen up his jumping and try and just direct himself straight, I think he'd have an all right chance, and he might be hard enough to pass. He ran a good race in New Year's Day in Cheltenham as well, in a novice handicap. He was given a good chunk of weight to the Evan Williams horse that day, and like, again, I thought his jumping was very good. Like, he's real elaborate jumper. Like, he's exactly what you want in a 2 miler, really. And I think he's a biggish enough price, and I might have a few quid on him. And I could not mention Quilixios. I was very impressed with him in Naas the last day. I had a few quid in him there the other day before Marine National went, obviously, but yeah, I don't know. Do I want to back him at 7-1? Now, when he was sort of, I'd have fancied him to nearly beat Marine National. Anyway, the way he ran at the DRF. But again, I'd agree with Paul. I wouldn't be too gone on the LA Thompson found a 50 form, from the Irish Arkle, to be honest.
God, well, I said it, I said it was a wide open race, and by God, we've all picked different horses there, and I'm going to pick another one, quite a long shot, but I just think, like, when you're talking about the likes of Master Chewy and JPR1, you know, and even Matata, like, I know he's 11, but Sharjah,
Fuck's
Sharjah.
sake.
I think Cillian, like, the slightly better ground. You know, he's the classiest horse in the race. He's definitely on a downward curve. I fully accept that. But I just think that if things clicked for him there on the day, you know, he'll be ridden cold. He'll be coming late. He'll pick up the pieces. And I think at 33-1, I think there's worse 33-1 bets out there. In a race that is wide open, there's no, like if you're looking top of the market there, like Found a 50, Illita Toms, Hunter's Yarn, like horses like that. You know, like if Sharjah just improved a small bit for the better ground, I could absolutely see him getting involved, to be honest. But look, it is wide open, and it'll be interesting to see what the market makes of it. You know, closer to the time. But
Would they not be going to the plate with Sharjah? 149 in the plate. I was interested by him for the plate, but I saw the connection said the Arkle. I'd give him a right chance in the plate off 149. And
yeah.
I don't hate the argument here either.
Yeah. I'd give him a chance in the plate off that, absolutely too. I would. You know, I'd give him a chance in either race. But look, it looks as if it's going to be here where he's going at 33-1. I've seen worse. But one race that isn't wide open and probably won't take too much time to get through is the Champion Hurdle. You know, we've obviously lost Constitution Hill there today. Didn't come as a shock to many, I don't think. You know, but to be honest, I'm glad that that's all over and behind us. I found all the talk about him tiresome all year, to be honest. And it's just great now that that's in the rear view mirror, and we can go on and look forward to Cheltenham and forget about all this circus around them. But is it just as simple and straightforward as Stateman wins? There's talk there about Lossiemouth potentially rerouting and going to the Champion Hurdle, and then Irish Point as well. Paul, I'll leave you jump in here on this one.
I think Irish Point to be better over the 3 miles again. I don't think, even on his Down Royal win over 2 miles, the second, I think, got a bit, although the second was never getting past him, got a bit too close for comfort, I think, at the last. I thought he was brilliant at Leopardstown then on his next start over 3 miles. I know connections are probably stronger on Tihapu for the Stairs Hurdle, but I think Irish Point, I think he's better over the 3 miles. I think he could run well here, but ultimately might be vulnerable to a sharper type. Yeah, I think Stateman is obviously the one they'll have to beat. I think he'll get his just rewards here, and hopefully nick a Champion Hurdle. I think it's unfortunate that Constitution Hill isn't running, but like you said, it's tough when you're there, James. Like, the whole year gears around to Cheltenham. Like, it is the Olympics of horse racing, and it's just unfortunate that he's not here. And I'm guessing connections were giving him every opportunity to line up. On another tangent, maybe same story, different chapter. Reading there that the second, is it in the jockeys table, Sean Bowen might be heading for the likes of Foss Lass or Sedgefield or what have you. I think that needs looking at. I think to see the top two in our sport, like, numerically, not fighting it out at horse racing's Olympics, I think is wrong. Like English racing or horse racing in general never had that problem when AP was riding, because he was winning. He was so far ahead. The championship was wrapped up in October. And before that, you had Dunwoody and Adrian Maguire fighting it out, and they were always going to be at Cheltenham. But could you imagine turning up to an Olympics? Imagine going to Paris now in the summer, and we'll say, for talk's sake, Usain Bolt staying, hanging fire in Jamaica for 10 grand or whatever extra.
Yeah.
You probably wouldn't bother going. Like, heading to the Grand Prix and Max Verstappen is just, he's off somewhere else. It just wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
So I think I think I don't know how to do it, whether to hit the pause button on the Jockeys Championship for the week or what.
Yeah.
But I think I'd love to see Cobden and Bowen getting a few rides each day and a big PR stunt at the start of each day to get your casual race score pumped up for it,
Yeah. No, it's a very fair point. It's a very fair point. Cillian, is would you agree in terms of statement? It's relatively straightforward.
Yeah, I do. I think there's a good chance he'd have beaten him anyway. I think Stateman's definitely improved this year. And he looks a sharper jumper. And he looks a stronger horse as well. So I think it would have been a brilliant race, and it's a pity we're not getting it. But Stateman will kick them all aside.
Yeah, and Ash, to wrap it up, do we have a full house?
Yeah. No, he will. The one that's my big plan of the year, and it's only fallen into place because Conhill's not here, is Zarek the Brave. I backed him at 50-1 after he won his Galway hurdle. I think on form, you can make a case for him, finishing a length and a half behind Lossiemouth in his juvenile career, giving weight away. So look, he's the each way one into this, and I'd say he's got the best chance of finishing second. Even if Irish Point does turn out, I think he's just got a bit too much boot. But yeah, Stateman should win.
Okay, very good. And another straightforward race comes shortly after that. We've got the Mayor's Hurdle, Lossiemouth, 7-4 on, Ashrow Diamond 4-1, Echoes in Rain 16-1. Actually, if Echoes in Rain turned up to the Champion Hurdle, I could see her maybe nicking third or that. That 2 mile trip would suit her that bit better. Hispanic Moon, Cillian, is one that Darragh O'Keefe has been speaking a nice bit about. I know he put him up as a charity bet, £50 each way, I think, was it, recently at one you were at in Galway. Would you give her much of a chance here?
Yeah, he was up in a preview night in Limerick there a few weeks ago, or last week. Darragh seemed really gone there. Like, he's probably going to ride her in the race as well. So she was a very good winner the last day in Punchestown, beating Sail of E and Gallimar. So Gallimar did probably underperform. She was very keen that day, but Hispanic Moon quickened up very well. And yeah, like, she hasn't had that many starts for Henry. She's only had the 3 starts since she's came over from France. And like, she was a winner in Punchestown and then got well beaten at Leopardstown at Christmas. But I think she'd missed a small bit of time before that Leopardstown run. So if you were willing to forgive her that, she's a decent price there at about 16-1. I can't, like, Lossiemouth, she probably will stay, I'd say, even if she's a doubtful stay or class would get her home anyway. Like, she looks to me to be all speed, but very hard to see her beaten. If I was having a bet in the race, it'd be probably Ashrow Diamond without the favourite, to be honest. I think she's a very good horse. She was good in Doncaster the last day, and I know the form's taking a bit of a knock, but it's interesting stat. She's unbeaten against mares, Ashrow Diamond. She's only finished behind a handful of horses in her career. Teopool, Irish Point, Marine National, Facile Vega. So all top grade 1 horses really that she's finished behind in Berry Pass as well. So she would take a bit of beating, I'd say. But yeah, it looks like Lossiemouth will win it.
Yeah, and Paul, would you have any reservations about Lossiemouth staying the 2 mile 4 furlongs, or would you be happy enough?
I'd be happy enough. You wouldn't be having a serious bet on her as such at that price, and you wouldn't be getting stuck into anything against her. I think she stays, which I think she will. She wins. Case of the heart rule in the head here. I have a big soft spot for Love Envoi. I said, she's a cracking mare. She was a good second to Honeysuckle. I had a lucky 15. First 3 winners were up, and it was rolling on to Love Envoi last year, and I was fairly shouting now coming into the wings of the last. So I thought Honeysuckle should have went for the champion now myself last year, but she's she's a belter, and I'd love to see. She's best price 16-1. I'm a big fan of the owners as well, the Noel Feely Racing Syndicate. Dave Cross, a big driver behind that as well with Noel, and sure, yeah, Crossy be half mad now in a good way, but I'd love to see her running a good race. If she doesn't manage to beat the favourite, I'd love to see her finish second.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I suppose like that form from the race last year would be good enough there to get second for sure. If not win this. But it's a case of whether or not she can bring that best form. I suppose this year she's been probably a level below her best.
But yeah, she has, hasn't she?
Yeah. What about yourself, Ash? Where are you looking here?
I suppose a bit like Zara the Brave shouting the champion hurdle, I might have one to finish second here because Lossiemouth is going to be very hard to beat. And again, this will be a long-term plan, but Echoes in Rain is a horse I just love. I think last year she just didn't get put into the race. The front two, sort of Paul said it there, is Honeysuckle and Love and Var. They were pretty much the 1-2 throughout the whole race. They came around the bend as a fairly slow enough pace and they just quickened away on decent ground. Echoes in Rain, I thought I was onto something coming down the hill. I thought Patrick was pulling double, treble, quadruple coming down the hill. And then as he asked, she didn't pick up, and the front two went away. In fairness to her, she stayed on nice enough, but she seems to have settled a bit better in her races this year. And this is going to be her final year racing. I think she might have one more race after this, or this might even be her last race. So look, I think she's got a good chance. She's 8 now. She's probably just getting a touch slower than what she has been, but then that's fine. Moving up to 2.5. Hope she'll settle a bit better. And yeah, 16s. I don't mind taking an each way chance on her just to hit the frame. I do see the Hispanic Moon shout as well, and we've got Danny Mullins coming on our preview tomorrow on the Only Fools Love Horses YouTube channel, and he said that as much as Garland was so disappointed the last day, Hispanic Moon was very impressive, and he sort of like that was the one horse he mentioned away from the Willie Mullins yard. So read into that what you will, really. I think she's probably a nice up and coming mare to hit the division, but yeah, Echoes and Rain's the each way, but Lossiemouth, I'd have no issues with her staying either, and she's priced accordingly.
Okay, and before we move on to the National Hunt chase and indeed the handicaps, we'll just get a few words from Harry Swan. We had him join myself and Cillian there recently, and he gave us good insight into Gordon's string, into the National Hunt chase, the rules around that, and indeed Gordon's bumper horse. So we're delighted to be joined here by top amateur jockey Harry Swan. Thanks very much for joining us, Harry.
Thanks a million, lads. Thanks for having me.
No bother at all, no bother at all. You're obviously based there in Gordons, so you'll have plenty of insight there for us, I'm sure. Before we get into it, what are your own plans for the week? Are you flying over? Are you getting the boat over? Or will you be there for the week, or what's the story?
Yeah, I'd say I might drive over Monday morning, and I'd say I'll ride out for the week there. There's obviously a lot of horses riding out in the morning, so busy mornings there. So, yeah, no, looking forward to the week now. Yeah, can't wait for it.
Yeah, they're probably early enough starts. You wouldn't get much chance now, I'd say, during the week for socialising or anything like that, unfortunately. What time would you be riding out at? Would you know, or you probably don't know yet?
Yeah, I think they usually put out around 7:15 or something like that. So, yeah, look, it's early, but sure, it has to be done, I suppose.
Yeah, I remember we were down there and we went down the Tuesday morning before. We didn't go down there until about 8. I think Willie String were out at the time, but yeah, geez, it's like a circus down there in the morning.
Yeah.
So many journalists and stuff as well, and
Yeah.
a lot of
It's
people
good.
down looking. It's good though.
Yeah, it's a good experience riding out
Yeah.
there. You get to see everything, and it's a lot of commotion a lot of the morning. So it's a cool place to be every morning.
Yeah. It's a cool place to go out in the night before too. Jeff, I've plenty of experience of that there. Your father then, Harry, obviously 17 wins there at the Cheltenham Festival. What would it mean to you to add to that?
Yeah, I'd mean everything. And I'd love to ride a winner this season, this year here. Yeah, I've kind of been dreaming about it a lot when I was younger, and look, obviously watching all the dad's winners there. You'd love to. I'd say it's a great feeling. Everyone, all the lads that I talk to anyway, say it is. So yeah, it'd be something anyway on the bucket list.
Yeah. I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will, and hopefully it works out for you.
And I suppose are you expecting to get many rides then over in the week? I suppose the bumper, Kimmuir, National Hunt Chase, be sort of the rides for amateur jockeys. So are you expecting to get a couple of spins there?
Yeah, look, hopefully, when the bumper, hopefully, when the Kim Yor as well. I'm actually not qualified to ride in National Hunt Chase this
Or
year
not?
because No, I don't. You actually need 5 winners over fences.
Oh,
Up on the track, it's a bit of a pain, really. I think they brought the rule in there a couple of years ago after, I think, remember there was about horses finishing and stuff like
Yeah,
that. There was a bit of commotion over that. So yeah, it's an annoying rule to be honest. I've 3 winners over fences, so I was kind of trying to look for them for the last couple of weeks. What as an amateur, it's hard to get them on the track, and especially Jack is going for the championship this year,
yeah.
so it's hard for Gordon to give me rides over fences. But yeah, it's a bit of a pain. But sure, hopefully have a good ride in the Kimure anyway, and hopefully the bumper.
Yeah, no, that's a real sickener about that. And I think that was the year the famous Ted Walsh
yeah,
Peppa
what
Pig
was it?
Yeah.
line. I was that's all I thought of. He was saying
I
that, but
think
yeah, geez,
actually
that's gas now that they changed that.
I actually think I'd be allowed riding the Gold Cup, but not the National Chase. Yeah, it's a funny rule.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's a mad. I think so anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, it's a
Yeah,
crazy.
they went stone mad there that year just after changing all sorts of rules, reduced it from 4 miles down to 3 miles 6 as well, and
Yeah.
obviously the jockey changes, and they even
Mm,
got stricter on the horses,
yeah,
the entry requirements and all that.
yeah.
Um,
There's
you know,
actually there's very few riders that can actually ride in it because like there's a very small pool. I'd say there's only 15 amateurs in Ireland that could actually ride in the race.
really, God.
Because it is quite a hard like
Yeah,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
deliver fences in Ireland as an amateur on the track is a hard thing to do. Like obviously I've ridden a good few point-to-point winners, but they don't count like so.
yeah.
yeah, it's a bizarre rule really, but the BHA, in fairness, they love coming up with these mad ones anyway. But we'll move on from that. We won't give them too much abuse here. So out of, I suppose, Gordon's three for the bumper, you could Jalan Duderi, Yellow Clay, Romeo Coolio. If you had the choice for that, which one would you be siding with?
I think I'd have to choose Jalan Dudaris, I think. Look, he's obviously a very classy horse. I think the first day he ran in Ferryhouse, I think in the last furlong he did 37 miles per hour in the last furlong, which is very, very classy for a horse like him. He obviously backed it up then in Leopardstown a couple of weeks later. He beat Redemption Day, which probably doesn't look like the best of form now, looking back on it. He did it very, very well. We went a right good gallop from the front, and he was able to quicken. And he's a very classy horse. He's a proper stayer, I'd say, for the future. And yeah, I'd find it hard to go against him. He's been flawless really this season. So, and he looks quite a mature horse. So, yeah, it'd be hard to go against him really.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
Gordon
Gordon.
does have sorry James, Gordon does
Go
have
on, no, go on, yeah.
a strong hand in the bumpers, and yeah, I think he was very impressive. And I know Gordon was straight away, he was going straight to Cheltenham from there. There was no need for another run, but in fairness, the other two seemed to have good chances as well.
Yeah, exactly. Look, Romeo Coolio, was good in Ferryhouse. He obviously wasn't as visually impressive as you'd like him to be. He was a bit of a hype horse. And he's a very, very good workhorse at home. I'd say he'll be a fair horse. Maybe probably just want a bit of time, I'd say. He can be a little bit a bit hot, so I don't know. I just be a little bit worried. Maybe his head might boil over a little bit over there. But he's a very, very classy horse, I think. And I think he's loads to. I think he will show a lot over the next couple of seasons, hopefully. But and obviously the yellow clay is kind of probably a little bit of a dark horse in the bumper, to be honest. He was obviously very good last season when he won a listed bumper in Limerick, and he's come back and he's running in Leopardstown, and he's finished fourth when probably I'd say he probably would have finished second, I'd say, if he didn't get caught, and he got a bit of caught in a bit of a fight, traffic problems, and probably would have been second, I'd say. And sure, if you take the winner out of it, that Jared Mashin, he's not running now, like he's the horse you'd pick from that race. He's obviously had another year on his side after he got injured in after Limerick, and he's had a bit of time to mature and everything. So yeah, look, he looks a progressive horse, and I wouldn't be surprised if Jack picked him, to be honest. He's Jack obviously thinks a lot of him, and yeah, look, the three bumper horses, they probably are hard to pick between them, to be honest. Like there's not a lot of proof that you can on form that you could pick. But I think I'd still have to pick with Jalan Duaris if I got the choice.
Yeah, that's fair enough. The yellow clay, actually, I was at a business breakfast there at Navan Racecourse last summer, and Noel Moran was actually on the panel there, and towards the end of it, he was asked, "Is there any horse to keep an eye on for the year?" And he said the yellow clay. But sure, then I saw him finishing so strongly then at Leopardstown, and I was thinking, where on earth did I see that name before? I was like, I recognize it from somewhere. And I went back searching throughout the group chat, and then I realized that's where it was from. So it was interesting that even back then, there was a lot thought of him. But I suppose aside from the bumper, is there anything there in Gordon's that you feel is maybe particularly well handicapped, or anything there at a nice price there that you might fancy over the course of the week?
Yeah, I'd like Cool Survivor in the Kimure.
Okay.
He looks like a progressive type. I think he was only beaten in neck by Calixios.
Yeah,
He's
over a shorter trip too.
yeah,
He always looked like he could take
yeah,
that step up, really.
yeah. And he actually beat Good Time Johnny, who's favorite there at the minute. So, I think in his recent run, I think it was in Leopardstown. So yeah, look, he looks a nice type for the race. And obviously I think where it all began, he obviously won the Grand National Trial there. He's going to go for that race as well. So I think they're two nice prices in that race, to be honest. I think if the ground comes up a bit softer, I think where it all began will take a lot of beating. So yeah, they're my two ones I look out for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I'm going to know the answer to this question already, but if you were to give a knack for the week, who would that be?
I think yeah, I think that the brighter days ahead. I think she's a serious mare. Like I've put myself on the line for this one really. But yeah,
We've we've had a fair argument on this over the last couple of weeks about brighter days ahead. Cillian is mad keen on her, and has been for a while. And I suppose, I know you'll be able to put me right.
yeah,
But
yeah.
the way that I see it, the way that I view her, was that I always thought that she'd suit her to a longer trip, and that she doesn't seem like she travels very well throughout her races, and she hasn't really had to come off the bridle much. Certainly not the last day at Navan over 2 mile 5 on heavy ground. And I was thinking, if a horse is going to win like that over 2 mile 5 on heavy ground, the step back to 2 miles, and that, I was just wondering how quick she is really, and do you think she has the speed for that race?
I honestly do. I won two bumpers on her last season. She won first in Goran. Like she was very, very
Yeah.
impressive. She gave me some feel. She barely came off the bridle that day. And she ran again in the Tattersall's bumper where she won. And she was very, very keen with me that day. I think she actually wasn't long back in. She had a little bit of a setback before the race, before the race, and she wasn't long back in, and she probably was a little bit fresh on the day, and she actually ran very free with me, and kind of halfway down the back, I thought I'd have to let her go. I was close to clipping heels with her, and I was very lucky now. I thought I'd have to let her go down the back, and just managed to hold on to her and kind of turn into the straight. Then I said, right, I'll just let her. I thought she'd run it. I thought she kind of ran with the choke out a little bit, and she might just pat her on home now because she's ran a race already, and she quickened away really, really well. I
Okay.
got some feel off her.
Yeah.
Just I thought for a horse to run that free and then just to quicken away like that was very special. Like so, I,
Okay.
I honestly don't think the trip will matter with her.
Right.
Like all her races, like she hasn't really ran into much, like, and she's kind of always been, I wouldn't say left in front, but even the last day she was left in front a bit, and she'd nothing really there to keep her company at all. And like Jack wasn't hard on her either. Like she kind of, I know it was over a bigger trip, but yeah, I can't really see her. It's gonna hard to see her being beaten it really.
Yeah. Fair
Like
enough.
Yeah,
I
I,
just
I,
think
I I think I think she'd nearly win the mayor's hurdle. Like,
yeah,
um,
I actually thought she nearly win a Ballymore, even
yeah,
if like if Ballyburn didn't go there, like if Ballyburn went to the Supreme, I nearly think that she'd win a Ballymore. Like, Like I
That's what
think, yeah,
that's what
Jack.
Cillian actually said on the
Yeah.
podcast there a couple of weeks ago too, to be fair to
Yeah.
him, and he got some stick for it.
Yeah, I got dogs abuse. People messaged me saying you haven't
Yeah.
a clue. I was like, when I saw you then on the champ.ie, when I was saying, oh, I've been vindicated here, like at least
Yeah.
someone else thinks it anyway.
Yeah, I think she's very classy filly. Yeah, I couldn't put you off her anyway.
Yeah, and aside from her, or you probably would answer her, I'd say no if you could, but maybe not. I was wondering, like, if there's any horse in any yard there over the course of the week, if you could pick one horse there to ride, would you have one there that would come to mind?
In the yard,
In any yard even?
I think I probably I think Lossiemouth maybe in the mares.
Okay, yeah.
I think she'd be an easy enough ride, to be honest. Like she
Yeah,
does,
you get that
she
support.
travels so well in her races. Like she'd bring you there on her own. Like you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't know now. I presume they still go for the mares with her, even with Constitution Hill being out. But
Hmm.
yeah, it'd be
A bit of
interesting.
talk in the last few hours actually, that they're going to have a conversation about it. But I'd expect her to go to the mayor's hurdle there as well. You'd imagine State Man should cover the champion hurdle easily enough. But Harry, thanks very much for joining us. We really appreciate you giving us your time. I'm sure our viewers too will be happy to get that insight from you. You said a lot of interesting things there. I'm sure they'll have the notebooks out on that. But the very best of luck next week at the festival, and we'll be shouting you on, and hopefully you do get your first Cheltenham Festival winner on the board.
Thanks very much, lads. Thank you very much for having
Cheers,
me.
thanks a lot.
So now we'll move on to the National Hunt Chase. We've got Corbett's Cross there at the top of the market. A lot of talk about Embassy Gardens there as well for Willie Mullins. And to be fair, it's a relatively deep race there. Like 3-card Bragg should be going there. Broadway Boy, I see some blue for him there on odds checker as well, Cillian. But you're sweet enough on Embassy Gardens.
Yeah, I think Corbett's Cross became a real preview night horse. I find it very hard to back a horse off a really bad prep like the fall, or pulled up or something. And I'd say that's going to stop me back in Corbett's Cross here for all. He probably is the most likely winner. I think Embassy Gardens has been very good now, twice over fences, and he should take a fair bit of beating, to be honest. And I'd love to see the money come for Corbett's Cross and get a few extra quid for Embassy Gardens. I think Salvador Ziggy obviously isn't seen since the American National. I think he might have had a fall schooling the last day in Navan Racecourse, so that might be one to just keep an eye on there. Broadway Boy is a horse I like, and I think if he gets from the front, he might be hard enough to peg back. And he is a very nice horse as well. But yeah, I'd say I'd go with Embassy Gardens, to be honest. And hopefully we can get. If we could hit 3-1, it'd be fantastic.
Yeah. It sure would. I'd be on the same page as you there. I thought he hasn't put a foot wrong really this year, beating Sander Clegane there last time by 10 lengths. Was quite impressive. Now Sander Clegane probably flattered to deceive a small bit, over fences this year, but I do think the form is there in the book. What about yourself there, Ash?
Yeah, like I'm going to put up a sort of the favourites. I agree with Cillian. Corbett's Cross. I've never really warmed to the horse, and I thought the prep last time out wasn't amazing. Unfortunately, I disagree with both probably yourself and Cillian in Embassy Gardens. I'm not a huge fan of his. I'd just like to see him do it at this level. He's been over hurdles twice, so in Grade 1 company, and he was fairly unfound in both times. Maybe he'll just improve massively, or maybe he's on an off day for both of those chances. But on the basis of backing him at 5-2, I wouldn't be a huge fan of his. So the one I landed on was Kilbeg King, actually, for Anthony Honeyball. I think that piece of form from Ascot from the Reynoldstown is going to be a bit of an underrated piece of form going forwards. I thought he lost his race because he didn't jump well enough, basically. I think the stiff test of Ascot, the sort of way the fences come up to him, it just didn't really suit him. He never got into a rhythm. And Henry's friend of Ben Paulings, who's a lovely horse, just beat him because he jumped better. I think he's staying all the way to the line. Connections, it came out within 24 hours and said, yeah, the National Hunt Chase is where we're going. Derek O'Connor's going to ride. And yeah, I just like that there's a bit more to come from him. We haven't seen the full Kilbeg King. He was traveling into that Courto Star amazingly well behind Ele Francais and just beaten by two very good horses in Ele Francais and Hermes Allen. I don't think it's a vintage National Hunt Chase year. And we haven't seen enough of him the only times we've seen sparks is when he bowled stuff at Punchestown and the 2 starts previously, which were 2 very good runs. So I think he's still fairly unexposed of what he could possibly be in graded company, and Kilbeg King, the extra step up in trips, going to really suit him as well. So 12-1, I'm taking a chance on Anthony Honeyball to hopefully win the last on the Tuesday.
That's interesting. It's not a horse really that I've given a whole pile of thought to be honest. What about yourself here, Paul?
I'd take a chance on the Lucinda Russell train, Apple Away, at a bit of a price. She's about 33-1. She was a beaten favourite. She was sent off favourite in that Reynoldsdown. Didn't jump great at all. Now, prior to that, she ran well to finish second at Warwick. She's a horse that likes to go forward. I can see why that 3 mile start at Ascot can be dirty enough now. If you don't meet the first 2 or 3 right, you're up against it, because I think you start down the hill. The first 2 are plain fences, then you jump the ditch and you're straight into the Swindley Bottom. You wing round the bend and it's all uphill after that. So if you miss any of those downhill fences early on, you're very much on the back foot, and that's talking from experience. I managed to ride a Reynoldsdown once upon a time, and like that, the horse was pretty careful, didn't make a mistake, but was very careful over the first 2 or 3, and it was race over from there. So I would forgive her that run. I think she's overpriced here, 33-1. It'll be interesting to see who Lucinda Russell puts up on Apple Away. But I think if she gets her act together, I think she can definitely outrun those odds. And another I would keep an eye on, Jockey Bookings, is Will Biddick, one of the most underrated, I think, amateur. He's the Cheltenham Festival winning rider. He was all but he did turn professional for a while, and I think he had his Cheltenham Festival winner for Venetia. He's an absolutely outstanding jockey, and it was just the weight. Like he's a big lad, big broad shoulders on him. He would definitely he wouldn't be out of place against the pros in England or Ireland or anywhere for that matter. I think he's an outstanding jockey, and I think whatever Will is jocked up on throughout the 4 days of the festival is worth keeping an eye on as well.
Okay, that's an interesting angle into it. All right, and that one that I certainly wouldn't have been looking at that myself, but duly noted, Paul. Ash, we've 2 handicaps there on the first day, and we'll start with you. We've got both the Boodles and the Ultima. So just fly through them and see if there's any horse that you fancy in either of those races.
Yeah, no problem. Of all the favourites I like on the day, somehow I've landed on Meeting on the Waters in the Ultima. I just think he's a very, very good horse. I liked his Paddy Power Chase win a lot, and I know he's got to shoulder a bit more weight than he carried in that Paddy Power Chase, but he ran into that race like a fresh horse coming to the last, and I really like him. I think he's a Grand National horse in this season. I backed him for the National, and he gets away penalty free if he wins the Ultima. So I think it's like a tried and tested route with Corrick Rambler last year, and hopefully Meeting the Wars does oblige in the Ultimate, but as an each way play into the race. Kim Bailey's got a fantastic hand with both Chianti Classico and Trelawn, but Trelawn would be the one I'd fancy out of the 2 above. I think they've both got great chances, but he's a 3 mile novice hurdle winner. He hasn't been tried at the distance yet over fences. Good form with Ginny's Destiny and Grey Dawning, and he's got Cheltenham form as well, and he was second in that race behind Krabilly last time out at Exeter. So yeah, I think he's got a great chance, Trelawn, in the Ultima. And in the Boodles, the horse I've been on to for a while is this Batman Girac for Willie Mullins. 7-1 still a fair enough price for him. He ran a great race in was it Mercedes-Benz Juvenile Hurdle on Boxing Day now or around Christmas time. Great race, really cold ride. Just came into it, massive eye catcher. And I like how the form's worked out for him. He can be a little bit of a hothead, but I've seen some schooling videos of him from Simon Neer and Isaac Swade, and he seems to be jumping his hurdles really nicely. So I'd be with him, but just at a bit of a bigger price in the same race. Martin Brazel could have a nice one in O's Partir. Good form throughout the season. He's been chucked into graded company the last 2 runs. Thought he was very interesting on his last one. He was out the back and out wide, came into it, travelled all right, and stayed on to the finish. But if he's sort of plotting a Boodles campaign, he's not going to be winning a race like that, is he? And he was second in a decent juvenile hurdle before that. I think 3 starts ago now. So Martin Brazel, always keep an eye on his horse at the festival, and he could have a nice one. Was 40-1 when I wrote this down. It's now 18. Don't know where the price has come now, but yeah, O's Partir is potentially an each way angle into the Boodles. That's my handicaps for the Tuesday.
Okay. Interesting. That's actually interesting too to see 2 Irish trained horses at the top of the market there for the Ultima.
Yeah,
not many Irish horses actually go for that race, really. I know there's a stat there that they haven't won. I don't know if it's 15, 16, 17 years the last
2006.
time since. Sorry,
2006.
2006. What's that?
Tony Martin.
Tony Martin. Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know why they don't do it. I know the Irish Grand National is like just there, and like fair enough, it's a bigger prize, go for it. But only one horse can win the Irish Grand National, and when you got horses like Vintage Clouds winning the Ultima like 4 years ago, like someone just run one in Ireland and you'd win it by 10. You know, like it's just. And now they're starting to cottoning on with the Goffer and meeting of the waters for sure.
What about yourself there, Paul?
Yeah, I think in the Ultima, I think Meeting of the Waters, clear round. I think he'll take the beating. I'd love to see Corach Rambler. However, I'd love to see him back in the winners and closer, but hopefully he'll save that for entry anyway. So Meeting of the Waters in the Ultima. In the Boodles, I quite like the Gordon Elliott trained Wadhu, who's a perfect 5 from 5 over hurdles.
Yeah.
She was good at Newbury, 2 starts back, good again at Doncaster last time out. I think Wadhu, bit of a price there at about 10 to 1.
Okay, very good. Cillian, I'll leave you with the final word here.
Yeah, I'm going to oppose Nash again. The Ultima, I'm going with the other Kim Bailey horse, Chianti Classico. Yeah, I really fancy him. He'd be one of my best bets of the week, I'd say. Thought he got a harmless enough ride now in Kempton. The last day was kept very wide, and it was just sort of to brush up on his jumping, because he can put in the odd clanger, but he's usually a very good jumper. Hopefully David Bass will ride him. He gets on with him well. I thought he was brilliant on him in Ascot in November especially, and yeah, I think he'll take a lot of beating. And in the Boodles, I don't know if I've ever backed the winner of the Boodles, so I should probably stay away. I a few quid in Arkle in the morning is a bigger price. I wouldn't touch him with the barge pole now. For all he will be better on nicer ground, like he's been running on horrendous ground there in the winter in Ireland. He will be better on better ground, and I wouldn't say he's been really applying himself all winter in those maiden hurdles, and at a bigger price. Then I think Give Me 5 if he runs might go.
He might not. I don't think he'll run it.
Is he going to go to the Triumph now?
He's just not going to run Cheltenham, I don't think. I think Harry Durham basically said he had him very, very ready for the last day, and he'll need to come back.
That's fair enough. Yeah, I wasn't sure if he was going to run or not, but yeah, he's one to keep an eye on though. He's a mark of 129, and I'd say he'd definitely win a handicap off that.
Yeah. Ash, we must get you on the podcast more often. I don't think I've ever met anybody who disagrees with Cillian as much as I do. And,
I love Chianti Classico. At one stage of the season, I said he could win the Corto Star. So I kind of do fancy him for the Ultima. I think he'll be like, he's probably my third choice, but you can't, unless it's big. When I'm backing one so short in Meeting the Horses, it's hard to have 3 horses in a race.
Yeah. I suppose the thing is too, with this time of year, it's like the last week or two, certainly now before Cheltenham, is probably the worst possible time really to be backing a horse altogether. Like there's a lot of horses there, who need to start drifting shortly enough. So it's not, I suppose that's a separate point entirely, really. But just before we wrap it up for day one, I get the best bet for Tuesday off Ichi. So we'll start there at the top with Cillian.
Chianti Classico in the Ultima.
Okay. Paul?
The best bet, let me see, on the Tuesday, I'll go with the Jericho the Reppin in the opener.
Okay, good man. Ash?
Batman gear, I reckon the Boodles.
Okay, good man. And I'm going to stick with Willie Mullins as well, and maybe it's my heart ruling my head here, and Cillian's going to start laughing again, but I'm going to go with Charge at 3 to 1 each way. I do think he's a good each way bet at that price. But look, Paul, Ash, thanks very much for joining us, and we'll be back again tomorrow to preview day 2. So to all our listeners too, thanks very much for listening in. If you could click subscribe too, that'd be great. We'd love to get to 1,000 subscribers there, certainly before the season is finished. So until tomorrow, thanks very much, lads. We'll see you then.